So after the many countless hours I've put into playing this game and uploading many YouTube videos, I finally decided that I think it's about time I shared my whole experiences on this game that I've lived through for many years. Now to be frank, this video is a review and it will be, but it's also going to be a video used to give people information on if they should or shouldn't play this game. We will get to the conclusion in the end of the video, and be warned there is going to be a bit of spoilers. So if you haven't played this game before and don't want to be spoiled of everything, you should probably leave. But if you don't care or have played this game before, well, enjoy the video. The basic premise around Wizard101 is that you, the main character, are a wielder of magic. So the introduction when you load the game is pretty straightforward. You click the create character and hop right in. Now in the current day it's actually different, and when you sign up you do the test to determine your school, as well as actually naming your character. When it comes to corny names in this game like Taylor Swift or Luke Skywalker, which is what I saw numerous times throughout the days of playing Wizard101, now I usually see stuff that's kind of just annoying, and some things are along the lines of very sexual things, kind of like Alexis Hawkbreaker, Isaac Hex, if you get the reference. One of my favorite, most corny names on this game is probably Alan Walker. If anyone can legitimately get where that comes from, I will probably give you a shout out. Another thing that kind of frustrates me about the naming process, besides the whole corny things, is just the fact that we can't type in our desired names like most MMOs. Even a game before that, many actually MMOs before that even let you personally name your character. But I get it, Wizard1's a kid-based game, so they kind of don't want you to do that. During character creation, my biggest pet peeve is how, in terms of actually choosing what you want your character to look like, is very, very limited. And honestly, the best looks for your character really makes you look like every other wizard in the game. Same with the available clothes in the game. One good thing though about your character selection is that you don't have to take the really annoying test 24/7 to determine what school you are. You can simply click skip the test and go straight into this what school and the tutorial as shown below. If you've already made your character, you can also skip the tutorial fight, but that's only if you've already started a little bit of a log. And also, we will explain the tutorial because this is a review. During your introduction, you meet the headmaster of the school, Merlambros, which in all honesty just kind of reminds me of someone like Gandalf. I don't know why, but every time I see him, I just get Gandalf vibes. I mean, really, don't question it. Oh, but isn't he kind of just like Dumbledore also? I mean, can't you see the correlation? But they're kind of in the same setting. Something crazy happens inside the towers. The headmaster wants him to follow us and investigate it, thinking we have equipment, and inside we meet the first villain of the game, Malister, who honestly turned out to be one of the most memorable enemies in all video games, in my opinion. The storyline of Wizard101 is actually fairly simple, but yet it kind of goes very in-depth with character development. But unfortunately, for people not paying a dime on the game, you can't really do much. Yes, the game that they advertised to us as kids during the time we actually started wasn't free. You either had to pay $9 a month for a membership or pay as you go with crowns. As I started, I firstly played with crowns, but then I got sick of spending so much money on them and ended up buying the 12-month subscription. Something I didn't realize when I was little, though, was that all the company was really trying to do was rip us off and making us pay little fees to pay their game. But what really hinted how much of a rip-off this game was is what they implemented in the Crown Shop as well as tournaments. The Crown Shop is probably one of the most dumbest microtransaction things I've ever seen in my life. If you think EA is bad when it comes to the whole microtransaction thing, once you see KingsIsle Entertainment, you'll probably think again, considering 100% of their revenue off this game is solely on microtransactions from my memberships and Crown items. Some of the Crown Shop items that KingsIsle likes to bring out are packs, which are usually 399 crowns per pack, depending on the pack, of 2,500 crowns for one pack. KingsIsle likes to really up their microtransactions by monthly sales on packs and bringing items from the Crown Shop back, as well as crown sales 2 through 3 times a month. Yes, they actually bring back old retired items just to get microtransactions. So that being said, this quote-unquote free game that we started playing actually racked up a whole lot more money from us than we thought. And let's just move on from the whole Crown Shop and just go into bigger details. The Malister storyline is actually the best in the game by far. You travel to around 5 worlds in the spiral for this guy, and all of them directly correlate with him in some certain way. In the last game, the last world of the game, we actually learn about this evil villain more than ever, and actually learn more of his motions. Once we figure out that his wife actually passed away suddenly due to illness or something, it actually changed Malister for the worse. So we basically set him off with peace at the end of the world by defeating him. So that was the good storyline. Here comes the crappy part of this game that actually turned the game from a really fun MMO to a really shitty MMO, the Morganthe storyline. Sadly, the Morganthe storyline started out really bad. I mean, the first world you don't even know what you're fighting there in the first place, and don't even meet the villain you're supposedly up against till the second last dungeon of the world. which basically means you wasted 5 through 10 hours on the world for just basically no reason at all. Then we go into the next world, Safari, which actually legitimately makes the game grind heavy. Many quests in Safari have repeated goals just for you to waste countless hours on, and in fact get nowhere by leveling up numerous times. If you actually quested right, you would be level 70 and done with the world in about 4 through 6 hours, and sometimes at the beginning when they actually first came out, you would even take 10 to 12 hours because of how buggy quests were. All in all, we go through 2 crappy worlds in every aspect. We go into a fairly decent world known as Avalon after those 2, which actually had a very good theme, but the purpose was actually executed very poorly. And in the balancing department, and things took a massive shift in the game. In Celestia, every school had their powers and weaknesses. Once Avalon came, everything was incredibly screwed because of King Zal's stupidity and adding something called immunity. Ice Wizards at this point in the time were given 67 resist to fire and storm, the most heavy hitting classes in the entire game. Then a few months later, we were actually given a pack that gifted us 73 resistance to all schools just by having 3 pieces of main equipment and a decent 9 to 5 pet. So this is where I first took a break from Wiz, only to come back a year later and actually see little to no results on the balancing department. Azteca was actually literally by far the most terribly designed world in the existence of King's Isle. It was a waste of time, ruined old characters, buggy as hell, and more grinding than a normal RPG would even offer, with retardedly difficult enemies till a nerf came 2 years after the release of the world. Azteca was even so dumb to bring back Malister in an evil state rather than a good state with no particular reason as to why. That was because King's Isle made a shitty world and didn't even know what a proper final boss was, but yet they still put a shitty final boss entirely. After you do the shitty world known as Azteca, you come up to the 2-part conclusion of Morganth, aka Chrysalis, and just like its predecessors, was a fairly garbage world all in all. You wasted 6 to 10 hours of your life on both parts of this world just to have the same outcome. You basically end up defeating Morganth, of course, who would have thought, and as always, actually wasted more time on her than you actually did on Malister. But the shitty thing about Morganth is she basically had pretty much no purpose as to doing anything she did but to just taking over the world, or the spiral, I should say. And honestly, the way she was actually taking over the spiral was pretty fucking retarded. I mean, it's pretty crazy actually taking a dragon to revive your wife, but I mean, actually going through and destroying and like breaking down worlds and shit, that's kind of too far, man, just to take over the spiral, you know? The schools of magic you learn from Ravenwood, Fire, Ice, Storm, Balance, Myth, Death, and Life are basically your own unique one of whichever one you choose. But then Kingsville also adds later into new schools of magic, Shadow, Star, Moon, and Sun, which play different parts of the game that can either be game-breaking or non-game-breaking. Another aspect of the game, which is actually player versus player, was actually somewhat enjoyable in the game for a time. But now it's just you're either on your run-of-the-mill, whoever has the best items, or the best class turns out the victor of probably 99% of the duels. I think there's a very small chance that there's actually a little bit of skill involved with this game anymore when it comes to PvP, and also there's quite a few people that actually just boost their rank on the leaderboards, who basically just try to make themselves look really good on the game, but everyone knows that they're faking, and it ultimately makes climbing in the rank system on the game not so fun. It eventually leads to King's Isle actually resetting the ranks numerous times, so we actually have to consistently get our rank back. And so for the last thing I will have to talk to you guys about is basically the Polaris update. The Polaris update was an all-in-all good update. It actually kind of balanced a lot of the problems from level 100, bringing level 110, and even makes you graduate from Redwood and actually go to a new school in the far corners of the spiral on its own very world. And unlike Celestia, you actually know who you're up against and why. The last problem I have with this game is that how they have 110 levels currently. I feel like that's just a big turnoff for newcomers to the game, and that is why I heavily recommend you not to play this game. If levels 50 through 100 were actually enjoyable and not a waste of money, maybe then I would consider letting you guys try the game out. Or you can also do it if you're in a court, I'm not stopping you. But in my opinion, the game really just ended after level 50 because the next 50 levels were an inevitable waste of time. And honestly, I really regret wasting my all those years leveling up 50 times, grinding for items, and all the other stuff. Another fun thing that Wizard101 actually likes to make you do is farm for a lot of items in the game. A lot of the good items in the game you actually have to farm or spend a lot of money on, which is very pay to win in my opinion. And I will not lie to you guys, this game is heavy pay to win. So that's a big issue with it. And the last thing I actually need to talk to you guys about is pets. And pets are probably one of the coolest things that Wizard101 actually brought to their game. That was actually kind of fun. Then as it gradually progressed, it really, really, really got annoying. I mean, it got super annoying. And one of the biggest reasons why is because KingsIsle made really broken pet talents. I mean, if you want to talk about game breaking with the shadow magic and stuff, I mean, look at pets, dude. Just go to any of the bigger YouTubers, and if you played the little games like that KingsIsle have made, especially Wiz, you could potentially see how broken these pets are. I mean, in fact, I actually have a pet on my account with triple damage, resist, and a healing talent. And some people even go as far as making 5 resist talents on their pet. So when pets actually first came out, it was mainly it leveled from teen to adult to ancient to epic, and then they actually introduced mega, and then ultimately an ultra talent. And what ultra does is it actually gives you a pet jewel, which actually kind of helps do all that stuff. Jewels is another thing that actually broke the game even more, while KingsIsle was actually thinking, oh, it's going to help the game a lot. What jewel crafting actually did was it gave people at higher levels the opportunity to 50% pierce you without actually having to use shadow magic. And thus at level 95 to level 100, you can actually pierce people for probably 95% of their resistance if you do the correct pierce training strats, which actually makes this game a whole lot broken because 95 pierce is basically going through 50% of your resist and 45 is boost. So think about that wisely, guys. So anyways, guys, that about does it for my review of Wizard101. I'd actually rate this game probably a 6 out of 10 currently. If they didn't add all the stupid stuff and actually thought before they brought stuff to the game, I would actually probably rate it quite higher. But I was really, honestly, after playing this game for so long, very turned off by all the stuff that they actually created, and it actually really killed my vibe for this game. Now, I still do play this game, I do still enjoy it to an extent, but it's usually for an entertaining standpoint. But anyways, guys, should you guys play this game? I don't think you should, but if that's really what you guys want to do, play this game, go right for it. I will not stop you. It does look like an interesting game, I will admit, when you're first looking at it, and I will not blame you if you do try this game out. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you do like the video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more Wizard content, please subscribe. It really means a lot, and as always, have an awesome day, guys.